Have you ever sat down at a family gathering, maybe around the holidays or a birthday, and felt like you were just invisible? You're right there sharing the same space, but somehow your kids or grandkids breeze right past you, caught up in their own conversations, their phones, their lives. It's not that they mean to hurt you, it's just that somewhere along the way, after you hit 65, it feels like your voice doesn't carry the weight it used to. And that stings, doesn't it? I've heard it from so many folks just like you, people who've spent decades building families, offering wisdom, and being the rock everyone leaned on, only to feel like they're fading into the background now. Well, if that's you, I've got something to tell you. You don't have to stay quiet. You don't have to let that feeling define your days. Today, we're diving into 5 bold moves. Yes, bold, because you deserve to be heard. That'll help you reclaim your voice and remind everyone, including yourself, that you're still a force to be reckoned with. These aren't just fluffy ideas. They're practical steps you can start using right away to boost your confidence and make sure your family sees you for the incredible person you are. We're talking about ways to shake things up, stand tall, and feel good about the life you've built. So grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and let's jump in, because your voice matters, and it's time to bring it back to the table. Let's start with the first move. Stop waiting for permission. Now, I know that sounds a little feisty, but hear me out. When you were younger, maybe raising your kids or running a household, you didn't sit around waiting for someone to tell you it was okay to speak up or take charge. You just did it. But as we get older, sometimes we start second-guessing ourselves. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I don't want to bother them, or they're too busy to listen to me. Well, here's the truth. Your thoughts, your stories, your ideas, they're just as valuable now as they ever were. So instead of waiting for the perfect moment when everyone's quiet and looking your way, create it. Next time you're with family and they're chattering away, don't shrink back. Lean in and say something like, hey, I've got a story about that. You're going to love this. And then tell it. Don't apologize. Don't hesitate. Just share. I've seen this work wonders for folks. One woman I know, Margaret, used to sit silently while her grandkids scrolled their phones at dinner. One day she just started telling a funny story from her childhood, loud enough to cut through the noise. Before she knew it, the phones were down, and everyone was laughing. She didn't wait for an invitation. She took the stage. You can too. It's your life, your family. Don't let anyone make you feel like a guest in it. Now that you're thinking about stepping up, let's move into the second move. Set your boundaries and stick to them. This one's big, because sometimes when family starts ignoring you, it's not just about them being distracted. It's about them forgetting that you're still a person with needs and limits. Maybe your daughter calls last minute expecting you to drop everything and babysit, or your son brushes off your advice like it's old news. Whatever it is, if it leaves you feeling walked over, it's time to draw a line. And I don't mean you have to get mad or start a fight. Just be clear and firm. For example, if you're tired of being the on-call babysitter without a heads up, try saying, I love spending time with the grandkids, but I need a little notice so I can plan my day too. Then hold on to it. If they show up unannounced anyway, it's okay to say, not today, I've got my own plans. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to saying yes all the time, but trust me, it works. I talked to a guy named Tom who'd been feeling like his kids only called when they needed something. He started saying no when it didn't suit him, and guess what? They didn't just respect him more, they started calling just to chat. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away, they're about pulling yourself back into focus. When you value your time, others start to value it too. So there we are, 2 bold moves already in your pocket. Stop waiting for permission and set your boundaries. These are like little sparks that can light up your confidence and get your family's attention in a whole new way. But we're not stopping there, because sometimes it's not just about how you react. It's about what you do next to really make your presence felt. Let's keep going and talk about how you can take that energy and turn it into something even bigger. So now you've got this spark going, you're ready to speak up without waiting for anyone to roll out the red carpet. And you're setting some boundaries to remind everyone you're not just a background character in their story. That's a great place to be, but sometimes it takes a little more to really shift how your family sees you. That's where our next move comes in. Share your wisdom on your terms. You've lived a full life, decades of experiences, lessons, triumphs, and probably a few hilarious flops along the way. That's gold, and it's yours to give whenever you choose, not just when someone asks for it. Think about it. Your kids or grandkids might not always stop and say, hey, tell me what you think, but that doesn't mean they don't need to hear it. The trick is to find your moment and deliver it with confidence. Maybe you're at the dinner table and they're debating some big decision, buying a car, picking a school, whatever it is. Instead of sitting back, jump in with something like, when I was your age, I learned the hard way that rushing into a big buy like that can backfire. Here's what I'd do differently now. Keep it short, keep it real, and don't worry if they don't nod along right away. The point isn't to force them to agree, it's to show them you've got something worth hearing. I knew a lady named Doris who started doing this with her grown sons. They'd roll their eyes at first, but then one day one of them called her up and said, "Mom, that tip you gave about negotiating saved me a couple grand." She didn't wait for them to ask. She just shared, and it stuck. Your voice carries weight because of everything you've been through. So don't hide it. Pick your spots and let it shine. And while you're out there sharing what you know, let's talk about the fourth move. Build your own spotlight. This one's all about taking charge of your own happiness and showing your family you're not just sitting around waiting for them to notice you. If they're too busy to call or stop by, don't let that dim your days. Go out and do something that lights you up. Maybe it's joining a book club at the library, taking a painting class, or even just walking with a neighbor every morning. Whatever it is, make it yours and let it show. When your family sees you thriving, it's like a magnet. They start wondering what's got you so energized. I've seen this happen with a guy named Ray. His kids used to barely check in, always saying they were swamped with work. Then he started volunteering at a local animal shelter, and he'd post pictures of the dogs he was helping. Nothing fancy, just a quick snap on his phone. Next thing you know, his daughter's texting, "Dad, tell me about that puppy," and his son's swinging by to hear the latest shelter stories. He didn't beg for their attention. He built something for himself, and they couldn't help but notice. You don't have to climb mountains or start a new career. Small things count too. Maybe it's growing tomatoes in your backyard, or finally learning that guitar riff you've always wanted to nail. The point is, when you're out there living your life, you're not just waiting in the wings anymore. You're center stage, and your family will feel that shift. There's something so powerful about that, isn't there? You're not just reacting to being ignored. You're rewriting the whole script. Sharing your wisdom keeps your voice alive, and building your spotlight shows everyone you're still in the game. But sometimes, even with all that, you need one more push to really seal the deal and make sure your family doesn't just hear you, they truly listen. Let's dive into that next. So here you are, stepping into your own power, sharing what you've learned from a lifetime of ups and downs, and lighting up your days with things that make you feel alive. It's like you're turning the volume up on your own story. And that's already changing the way you feel, isn't it? But sometimes, even when you're doing all this, you might still catch that flicker of doubt, like maybe your family's too caught up to really tune in. That's why our fifth move is so important. Ask for what you need, straight up. I know, asking doesn't always feel bold. It might even feel a little scary, especially if you're used to being the one who handles everything quietly. But here's the thing, being clear about what you want isn't weak, it's strong. It's you saying, "I'm still here, and I deserve to be part of this." Maybe you've been feeling left out of family plans, or you just want a phone call that's not about fixing something. Whatever it is, don't hint, say it. Next time you're talking to your son or daughter, try something like, "Hey, I'd really love it if we could set aside a few minutes to catch up, just us. How about Sunday?" It's simple, it's direct, and it puts the ball in their court. I talked to a woman named Linda, who did this after months of feeling like her kids only called when they needed advice. She told them, "I miss hearing about your lives. Can we make a plan to talk once a week?" At first, they were surprised, but then they started calling regularly, and she said it felt like they were meeting her halfway for the first time in years. Asking doesn't mean begging. It means you value yourself enough to let them know what matters to you. And when they see that, they start seeing you differently too. Now think about how far you've come with these moves. You're not waiting for anyone to hand you the mic. You're taking it. You're setting boundaries so your time and energy get the respect they deserve. You're tossing out nuggets of wisdom like the pro you are. And you're building a life that's so full they can't help but notice. And now you're topping it off by asking for what you need. No guesswork, no games. It's like you've built this beautiful bridge between you and them, and all it takes is a little courage to walk across it. You don't have to do everything at once. Start with one move that feels right. Maybe that story you've been itching to tell, or that boundary you've been meaning to set. Small steps like that add up. And before you know it, you're not just in the conversation, you're leading it. That's the magic of reclaiming your voice. It's not about forcing anyone to listen. It's about reminding yourself and them that you've got something worth saying. I'd love to hear how this lands with you. What's one thing you've tried or want try to get your family's attention back? Drop it in the comments below, because your story might just spark something for someone else watching. And if this video hits home for you, give it a thumbs up. It helps us reach more folks who might be feeling the same way. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more tips coming your way to keep you thriving, no matter your age. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on. Here's to living loud, proud, and full of heart, because you're worth it, today and always.